So I want a PHP project here. We're going to call this, how about project 1, and I'm going to put it in my 2454 repository. Okay. There already is one? Oh, project 1? Uh-oh. What do I have in my repository? Did I give you guys that already? Where is it? Documents, GitHub, 2454. No, I don't have a project 1. It's all just right there. Ah, I need another folder. I will call it project 1. Sure. All right, and it's going to go to localhost :50,080. Right, change that port number here, and I want to copy the files to my htdocs. We'll call this project 1. I already have a project 1. How about a tax calculator? I already have that tax calculator. Okay, project 1 tax calculator. There we go. Project 1 tax calculator. Use a nice name here. So it's going to copy my PHP files to this htdocs folder, but I can keep them in my repository. This should make up relatively well here. Don't need any frameworks. We don't need any composer. We're good to go. All right, so we got our index PHP, where we're going to put a form here, and I actually have it here. I've got my other one. I want to just steal it off of here because I don't have to go write it again. I'm always going to go copy paste forms because I think that's probably easier. Here we go. Look at that. So the form, right, has two fields, two text input fields, one for gross income, one for total deductions. Right, just using a little label here, basically ripping off the book as well. And then a button to submit, which will send to the taxcalculator.php page using Git. Okay, so then I'm going to add a new PHP file called taxcalculator, because that's where it's going to send that data to, and then I get my code block. Okay, so now I need to have my variables here in my code block, and I can get them out of the Git parameters. Right, so I can have a, what do we want to call it, gross income, and equal, and I want to do my input validation. Oh goodness. I'm going to shamelessly copy paste because that's all right. Oh, filter input, I'm sorry. Filter input. You don't need to memorize anything. Go look it up, right? I pulled this out of the book, but I already have it here. So I'm going to filter my input. The Git input, if you were using post, right, you would use post here. The field is looking for is gross income. Remember, it needs to match that one here. So it needs to match the name of the field being passed here. So I'll say gross income, and I want to validate that it's an integer. Most people don't put pennies in here, so I'm going to go with integers, and I think I'll be fine here. And then we'll do the same thing for total deductions. Total deductions. And that time, I'm going to find total deductions. Okay, so now I've gotten the two pieces of information that I need out of here. And just for fun, right, you want to kind of get into the habit of doing this iterative development. You want to write a little bit of code and try it. Write a little bit of code and try it. Write a little bit of code and try it. Because if you write the whole thing and then you run it, you know, if you have issues, it's going to be hard to find where you're having issues. So for now, let's just go out and we'll just echo those gross income and deductions here. And I'm just going to steal all this here. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is have a little body here, and I'm just going to echo all sorts of my variables here. Right? We needed to have gross income. Oops, what do we call that? Yeah, gross income. I did an underscore this time. Sure. I think underscore is probably more proper. And then total deductions, probably more proper. And I was using the number format just to make it look pretty. You didn't need it. That's optional, so don't worry too much about it. And then the other things we needed is we needed to calculate the adjusted gross income, the taxes owed at 10%, taxes owed at 12%, 22, 24, 32, 35, 37, total taxes owed as a percentage of gross income, and taxes owed as a percentage of adjusted gross income. Oh, all those variables. So we need a bunch of variables, right? No big deal. So we're going to have an adjusted gross income, and I'll try and fix fix up using the underscores here instead of camel casing. I think that's more proper for PHP style. So adjusted gross income, right? And that's going to be, oh, but I need to check which deduction is bigger, right? So I need to check if my total deductions is less than, and it's 24,800 for a married couple because I'm doing the married brackets. Right? I'll set total deductions equals 24,800. If you had more than that, great, that's perfectly fine. But this is the standard deduction. So then your adjusted gross income is your gross income minus your total deductions. I'm just doing a double click. So if you like click on something and double click, it's going to try and highlight the whole word for you. And then you can Control C, copy, Control V, paste real quick. Sometimes that's faster than doing the type ahead suggestions, but totally up to you. All right, and then we're going to have all these taxes owed here. So taxes owed at 10%. I'm going to assume it starts at 0. I should probably fix that up here, right? So owed at 10%. There we go. So taxes owed at 10%. 12%, 22, 24, 32, 35, 37. 22, 24, 33, 35, and 37. Does that look right? And then I'll just go update all these ones here. So here's the 10, here's the 12, here's the 22, oops, 22. This is the problem. You gotta be a little bit careful because it's easy to screw up your copy pastes. So 24, 32, 35, and 37. Okay, and then a total taxes owed. Right, assume, again, starts at 0 until you know better. That's fine. After we calculate it, it's just the sum of these. And then, oops, that's right, we wanted to change that. So total taxes owed, not owned, owed, O-W-E, owed? Owed. Sure. Why not? Yeah, owed. Okay, it looks better there. 33 instead of 32. Okay, that's going to complain then. So 33, it should be 32, right? 32? 32? Thank you. So 32 is right? Okay. Yeah, I had them over here. All right, taxes owed as percentage of gross income. Again, starts at 0 till we know otherwise. And then let's fix this up here. We'll do the owed as percentage of gross income. I'm a big fan of variable names. Right? The variable name should tell you what it represents. Yeah, I'm an adult. I don't laugh at stupid things like that. Right, taxes owed as a percentage of gross income. And taxes owed as a percentage of adjusted gross income. Right, starts at 0 till we know otherwise. Okay. Yeah, some people prefer the underscore, some people prefer the camel casing. I think the PHP is, most people use the underscore, but some people don't, and sure, whatever. All right. I have all the variables, so I should be able to get this working now. I mean, and I haven't done any of the calculations yet for the taxes, but I want to test, hey, can I get the fields from the previous form? And sure, I'm doing my standard deduction check here now. Calculate adjusted gross income, and can I show something? Right? Let's look it up. PHP style guidelines, camel case. All right. All right. This link looks good. PHP Fig. Coding standards, tags, X. So functions have, what is that? Is that snake casing? Is that what they call it with underscores? Is that snake casing? Namespace, class names. They recommend against camel case or underscore property names. What? Oh, avoids recommending. Okay. Sure. Yeah, if you're working, you're going to use your company standards anyway. So I don't care too much. I just, pick one and stick with it. If you mix and match, then ugh. So I don't actually know if this is like an official one or what this repo is, but it looks official. I don't know. phpfig.org. PHP Framework Interop Group. Okay, I will assume that is pretty official. So they don't care. Sure, why not? Look at that camel case. How cute. All right, anyway, so we're going to try it, right? I don't want to use Firefox here. So let's see if I can get the income and deductions passed through and check for the standard deduction. Let's see what we get. Oops, I didn't start anything. That would help if I started my Tomcat or my Apache server. Let's start that. No, not now, Firefox, but thanks. Try again. Nope, that ran the wrong one. Project 1, properties, run. Oh, didn't we change that? I thought we changed it. Maybe we didn't change it. It needs to be Project 1 tax calculator. That would help. Right, it should match the directory name that where we're copying the source to. So that's how they match, right? Wherever you're putting this folder, that becomes the path. So web server / folder in htdocs. All right, we'll try that one more time. There we go. Okay, so let's put some numbers in here, right? Would null work instead of 0? I think you'd have problems dividing, but I could be wrong. So let's say 100,000 with 1,000 in deductions. We'll calculate. Look, it gave me the 24,080. Here's an adjusted gross income. Everything else is blank. Okay, sure, but the formatting looks pretty at least. We're in pretty good shape here. So I'm able to pass things. I see their get parameters here, which is nice. So right, you can just use this URL and you can just hand it to somebody. That way they don't actually have to go and do their own form, right? You could even do it on the exact same page. You could have this, and then if there are the parameters, it could calculate it down below. That way they could change it kind of on the same page. Again, lots of different ways of building web applications, right? I'm partial to what's going to be easy here. So maybe it'd be nice to do it on one page, but again, passing back and forth is fine. Not too big of a deal. Okay, so we're good so far. You folks holding up okay? Nothing too astonishing, right? I did a little bit of copy paste. I'm sorry, but this is, we're just echoing with number formats. So it's here's the span, here's an echo, concatenating with the number format. All right, cool. So now we need to do the math, right? For assuming everything is 0 until we know otherwise. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out how much taxes you owe at each bracket. Okay? So I'm going to, again, just cheat for a second here. So I'm going to grab these variables here and put them in my tax calculator because I don't want to have to type them all out. So what I have here is I have nice, pretty, I'll give it a format, variable names for the start of each bracket. And again, these are the married numbers. If you did the individual bracket numbers, they'd look different for you. That's okay. But this is where the bracket starts. And again, I want to use variables here. These they look like constants essentially, right? It's nothing making it constant, but putting in all uppercase is that notice to me like, hey, don't go change this. Similar to what you might have seen with constants in Java. You can make it a constant variable, and you don't change it. So we'll have the start of the bracket at each one of these numbers. It's always a good habit to not use what we'll call magic numbers. So if your code has a number somewhere and it's not been assigned to a variable name, it's kind of magic because you don't really know what that number represents, right? And then if you have to type it more than once, the odds of you typoing it are going to increase, right? Because we're actually going to use this number several times, right? So the less I have to type it, the better. And then next year, when the tax brackets change, I can go just change a couple variables here, and my program still works. Yeah, all caps for constants. Yep. Okay, so I've got variable names here that I can use. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be tracking another variable for me for fun. So I'm going to have an income to be taxed. And I'm going to do this so that I can avoid using else statements, because I like to think it's clever. Sure, but you know, it's a great example. You can use more variables, right? You don't have to just be limited to gross income. And I think it's going to simplify some things later. I'll show you. So the income to be taxed starts as the adjusted gross income. Now I can't use adjusted gross income because I'm going to be changing this number. Okay, and I'll show you that in a second. So it starts here. Then I want to start at the top. I want to say, hey, if your income to be taxed is greater than the start of the 37% bracket, well, you're going to owe some taxes at 37%. Right? So if you make more than this bracket, every dollar above that number, you pay 37% of. So your taxes owed at 37% becomes your income to be taxed minus the start of the bracket. I don't know why my tab didn't work there. Times 0.37. Now, sure, this is kind of a magic number, so maybe I should change that. I'm not going to feel too bad about it because I only use it one time, and like 37%. Sure. Like, I don't want to put a variable name for 37%. That seems a little silly. And these numbers can change anyway. I don't know. I feel a little bad, but that's okay. Right, so if you make more than the start of that bracket, you pay 37% of every dollar above that amount. Right, that's what this is doing. That's subtraction here. If every dollar above that, you pay 37 cents on the dollar. There's no limit on this, right? Every dollar above, they're taking 37 cents off of. Okay? Then what happens is your income to be taxed gets reduced. I'm going to set it to the start of the bracket. So you've paid your taxes now on every dollar above this number. Now you still need to pay taxes on the rest of this number. And now all my if statements are super easy here. I just go copy paste here and I change it from 37 to 35. 37 to 35. 35. 35. 35. My goodness. So we could probably use some sort of loop as well. And use arrays, but we haven't actually really talked about arrays. So if you looked ahead and used a loop and used arrays, very cool. That's great. We don't talk about that until arrays here. So sure, right? No big deal. And again, it's not terrible this way. And we just keep on working our way down. So 35 and then 32, and just make sure you replace everything here. So every dollar above that number, you're paying 32 cents on the dollar on. Hey, don't feel bad. I mean, I've given this sort of project several times. I'm quite fond of this because no one understands how taxes work. And I think I told you folks, I even had that kid who's like, my dad says you're wrong. Yeah, so, I mean, this is a good sort of practical project, right? You get to learn something else while you're actually doing some code, rather than just, I don't know, write the BMI calculator. That's silly. My dad could beat up your dad. Actually, my dad got pretty fit. They retired. He retired. My mom's close to retiring, and they bought a farm west of Ann Arbor, and they're raising goats on the farm, and all sorts of vegetables and flowers and other fun stuff. They got like 40 acres or something. So he, having taken care of the goats now, has gotten pretty fit. You know, hauling food and water for them all the time. They never got the water running out to the barn. Something with the water line died. So he just hauls water from the house over to the barn every day, carrying, you know, 2 5-gallon buckets. So I don't know, I was never able to successfully arm wrestle my father. So I'm positive I would not be able to more now after him taking care of the goats. But anyway, 32, now we go down to 24, right? 24, 24, 24, 24. Okay, and 22, 22, 22, 22, 22, 22. Thanks for the hydration reminder there, Mark. I appreciate it. Yes, I can definitely out-type him, for sure. Why is it hard to have a conversation with a goat? I don't know, but I'm hoping this is a joke. I'm super excited. Because they're always butting in. I like it. I like it. So yeah, they actually it knocked over one of my kids when the goats got excited. And they're herd animals, right? So like if one goat gets spooked and starts running, they're all like, "Oh no, there's something scary," and they all run. So it can shift pretty quick. But apparently one of their favorite snacks is like this branch that grows. I don't know, some like bush that grows there. So my dad cut off a couple branches of it and brought it over, and they like took this, big bunch of branches here, like 30 goats, maybe a minute, and it was down to, eating the bark off the branches that fast. And they just followed him around. So that's how he gets him to go places if he wants to. Yeah, so the start of the 10% bracket is just 0. But again, this is a good sanity check, because if your gross income is less than the standard deduction, you're going to be at a negative adjusted gross income. We don't want to tell you that you owe negative taxes, although it sort of works like that because we have tax credits and all sorts of other complicated things. But again, this is a very simplified version of the tax calculator. This is just playing with the brackets. So this is probably good to make sure that, hey, if you had more than 0, great. If you didn't have more than 0, we're just stop at 0. Okay? So we got all those calculated. Now we need to do our total taxes. So my total taxes owed is equal to this one, plus 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 this one. That should have been a cut. Trying to cut some of those, but okay, sure. All right, that's probably there, and then a semicolon. Okay, that's a little bit off with my formatting. I'm feeling bad now. It should look a little prettier. Sure. Okay, close enough, right? So that's my total taxes owed. What does it not like? You should use only one assignment to use to a variable to avoid overwriting. Oh, sure. No, I mean, starts at 0. That's fine. That's not a very helpful hint. Now my taxes owed as percentage of gross income. That is my total taxes owed. Total taxes owed divided by gross income. Hey, thanks so much for following, Gogster. What does having income to be taxed do instead of just using adjusted? Because I'm going to echo the adjusted gross income, I can't change it. And what I'm doing here is I'm subtracting each time. So if you pay taxes at a higher bracket, I say, okay, what's left over now, start down here. So otherwise, I'd have to do more arithmetic and, make sure that if you're greater than the bracket, use the bracket. If you're not greater than the bracket, then you use your number. So I think it simplifies some of this logic to say, okay, this is what's left here. And then sure, you'll hit the next if. Okay, and then taxes owed as a percentage of adjusted gross income is, you guessed it, the total taxes owed. Total taxes owed divided by adjusted gross income. Okay, and it's getting a little bit wide there, I'm sorry, but again, my font's a little large here so that it shows up better on the screen. So on your font, you should be fine, right? And if not, you want to bump it down, I'll bump it down one. Doesn't matter, right? Again, it's considered bad form if someone has to scroll to the right to see your code. That's why you get this funky bar here. At some point, that was a standard. Now we have wider screen monitors and that sort of thing, but again, you want to avoid making people go through trouble when they look at your code. Okay, so that should be it. Let's give it a run. Let's see. So let's do 100,000, and we'll do like 1,000 for our deduction. We get adjusted gross income of 75,000 or so. We are not higher than the 12% bracket cap. 12% bracket cap for married brackets, at least, goes up to 80,000 here. Okay, sure. So we're not paying any taxes above that. Total taxes owed as a percentage of gross income. That is wrong, right? Pretty sure that's wrong. Yeah, because it's a percentage here, I should multiply by 100. That's what I didn't do. So that number then, right, we'll do times 100. Because I'm going to display it as a percentage here. There we go. Let's give that a run. And then what's cool, I can just refresh my page. Right, because it's a get here, it's not a post, I can just refresh. Hey, Grokster, yeah, for sure. All the VODs here are on Twitch or Xclam YouTube if you want to check out all the exports on YouTube that will last longer than 45 days because I'm too lazy to highlight them in Twitch. All right, cool. So that looks a lot better, right? So 8%, 8.6% or so, right? Should be 8,000 something divided by 100,000. Oh, yeah, right there. That's an easy division, right? 100,000 easy. Off of adjusted gross income, it's a little bit more, right? 11% of your adjusted gross income. Great. All right, so now let's try some different numbers. Let's go for 1 million. And let's do, say, 100,000 for the deduction. So it leaves 900,000 of income to be taxed. Right? So again, we're paying the max at all of these brackets. So this is essentially the max number, right? Because you either pay no taxes at the bracket, you pay some taxes at the bracket, or you pay the max taxes at the bracket. Okay? And now this one here is every dollar above the start of that bracket, I had to pay 37% of. But in terms of my gross income, I only paid 27%. So just because someone lands in the 37% tax bracket does not mean they pay 37% of their income in taxes. And again, this is just the federal income tax. There's also Social Security tax. There's also the Medicare tax. There's also state income tax. There's also property taxes. There's also, vehicle, all sorts of road taxes, gas taxes. So again, yeah, maybe they do as a, total taxes, they might pay a certain amount. But in terms of federal income tax, that's specifically less than their top bracket here. Okay, and all sorts of crazy things go into the tax code. This is oversimplified with how deductions actually work and whether or not things are credits or deductible. But again, we don't really care. We're not writing TurboTax. We're just trying to take, all right, this is how they work and this is how we can show some information here. I've yet to have anybody understand before the assignment that everyone pays 10% of their first, $19,000 for married, or $9,000 for individuals, whatever the number is, right? So I think it's a fun assignment because I'm weird like that. But all right, so it's looking okay so far. But again, we kind of want to sanity check it. If any code that's worth writing is worth testing and making sure we did right. All right, so we put in the numbers. They look okay. Yeah, the percentages look right. We could do some hand calculations if we wanted to. So we could say, okay, well, the start of that bracket is 62,050. Okay, so let's take the 900,000 minus 62,050 is 277. So that's the money above the bracket here that I should be paying 37% of. 1,002, 841.50. Looking good. All right, so we can do those checks ourselves as well and make sure that it's looking correct. I think we could calculate the maxes for each of these if we wanted to. Not a big deal. Lots of ways to go about that, right? So the max of the 35% bracket is this number minus this number times 35%, right? Because you're paying every dollar between here and here at 35%. So we can do 622,050 minus 414,700, right? 207,350 at 35% times 0.35 is 72,572. Is that what we have here? 72,572. Cool. So we paid the max. And again, you could calculate the max for each of these if you wanted to, right? Maybe not interesting, but weirdly, like the 32% bracket is a less tax amount than the 24% bracket. So like it's a higher tax percentage, but because the bracket range is smaller, you're paying less taxes overall at 32% than you did at 24%. Again, just a fun little fact there. Like some of these are kind of interesting to see how they all shake out like that. Okay? You'd expect them to go up as the percentages go up but the bracket ranges aren't super consistent. Like, if you want to compare this here, because it's fun, right? We can. Money Chimp tax brackets. If you want to compare, there's actually a marriage penalty, right? So if you're single, starting at $518,000, you pay 37% of every dollar. But if you happen to be a married couple and both of you are making more than 500K here, You're paying 37% at 622,000. It's not double, right? The 10% bracket here is double, right? 19, right? From 98 to 19, doubled. From 40 to 80, doubled, right? For single. 85 to 170, doubled. Okay, so up through the 24%, you're fine. Once you hit the 32% bracket here, 163. Oh, okay, that one's double too. 32% is doubled. I'm sorry. So that one's doubled. It's this one here, 207. Oh, no, even that one's doubled. Okay, I think it was different earlier on. So you only hit the penalty then when you make, right, this number was not doubled. The 207 was doubled. 207 to 414. So you start paying 37% much sooner as a married couple than you do as a single individual, if you were both single making the same money. So thankfully, it used to be worse, the marriage penalty there for taxes, but thankfully it's only for above 518 or above 622,000 here. So I think many people don't have to worry about that. But, possibly if you have two doctors or lawyers or some sort of high earning professionals in a married filing here, they'll hit that penalty. But okay, sure. This is, again, we're okay. Tax policy is fun and all, but that's not the point here. So questions about the project. This all makes sense. And again, if yours looks completely different, that's okay. I think most people start at the bottom and they work their way up, which I think ends up making more work for you. So I'm a fan of let's start at the top and then go down. And I think that simplifies it a little bit. But again, nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with it. I did have one student one year, only one. They came up with a loop. And they started with adjusted gross income, and they looped as long as that was greater than 0. Let's go. And then dollar by dollar, they took either 10 cents, 12 cents, 22 cents, 24 cents, 32 cents, 35 cents, or 37 cents, and added it to the taxes owed. And then it essentially was an income to be taxed. And they would take it down by 1. So it was just a big while loop. And it would add up all of the pennies for every dollar that you owed. I thought it was really clever. I liked it, but I would not have thought of doing that. And that, that's part of the fun of programming. That's why I think programming is so cool, because it really is a combination of art and science. Right? There's this creative aspect that goes into, well, how can I make the computer solve a problem? How can I take a big problem and break it down into smaller and smaller and smaller chunks to make it simple enough to make the computer do it? Because computers are stupid. Right? Computers do only what we tell them to do, and nothing more and nothing less. And they'll happily do the wrong thing if we tell it to do the wrong thing. So the hard part of computer programming is figuring out how to solve problems in a simple enough way to make the computer do it. Right? And that's the fun part. Right? And everyone is going to approach it differently. So that is also why it's so much more fun to work in a team where you have multiple people who can kind of discuss ideas and throw out, well, here's an approach I want to take, or maybe I want to do it this way. And you can kind of collaborate and come up with the best possible solution. Because there are lots of solutions for sure. Rating which one is best is also a little bit tricky. Typically we go back to performance. Whichever one performs best, we'll say is probably the best solution. But there's also some, is your code readable? Right? There's a lot of people who have all sorts of weird fun trying to make the shortest code possible. I think that's just terrible. But that's okay. That's just me. I think code is meant for people. It has to follow the syntax rules so that the computer can understand it, but code's for people, right? Because ideally, what's going to happen is you folks are all going to go get jobs as developers, software engineers, programmers, whatever you want to call yourself somewhere. You're going to write an amazing application, and then you're going to move on to bigger and better things, but people are still going to be using your amazing application, so it'll be someone else's job to have to go and maintain it and make little bug fixes if you had bugs, or make changes to it, add new features, whatever you have to do, get it ready for the next version of this platform. Whatever work that has to happen, someone else will be doing that. It won't be your problem anymore. And you want to leave something that is nice and easy and readable and discoverable, that the next developer who works on it is going to think you're awesome. Right? You don't want them having to be upset with you. That's no fun. Yeah, it's crazy Lambda functions, for sure. Those can get nuts. I've learned to read Lambda functions. I'm kind of a big fan of them in C#, but it took quite a while here. And sometimes they just confuse me, and they're really hard to debug too, which drives me nuts. But, okay. All right, so let me go commit this to GitHub here. So I'll put this out here in case you were curious about the solution. Stack Overflow does. 2454.